So welcome back, everyone. Today I wanted to talk to you about the last few events that I've done with the Tesla Model 3. So if you've been following along on the channel, you'll notice that I attended two events recently with the Tesla. One was Time Trial Nationals hosted by the SCCA up at the National Corvette Museum in Bowling Green. And the other was a Ultimate Streetcar event down at NOLA Motorsports Park in New Orleans. So I wanted to recap both of these events, and starting with Time Trial Nationals, which was a few weeks ago, the original plan was to actually bring the Camaro. I thought the Camaro was classed pretty well in Tuner 3, but a few weeks before the event, they actually classed the Tesla, which I had wrote a letter about several months earlier, and it seemed like they weren't going to class it before Nationals. So they ended up classing it in both Street 2, which was for basically a stock car with some allowable modifications, and Tuner 2, which this fits into, which is more for suspension modifications and things like that. I didn't think this was necessarily classed that strongly in T2, but I've had the car there before, and I was excited to see what the difference would be back to back when it was stock with these wheels and tires versus when it was what it is now, basically, which is with the Mountain Pass Performance coilovers and also their adjustable arms and some other modifications. I've got better brakes now than what I had the first time I was out at Bowling Green earlier this year. So what is Tuner 2? Tuner 2 is made up of modified V8s primarily, at least that's what was mostly there. I think there were about 10-15 cars in the class, GT350R, Corvettes, Camaros, etc. So definitely the outlier, as this usually is. But I was excited to give it a try and see what this car could do against those heads up. So there's no GTE class like in Optima. This is straight heads up. The way the event format worked is that there were three different events within the event. The first was a track sprint, which was a lower speed section of the course with a cut through onto the front straight. So it was more about going out, setting a fast time quickly. We only got 2 runs at it. And again, lower speed. So kind of like an autocross, but on a road course, no cones. And that was pretty fun. And I was able to compete with that and actually come in with a pretty good margin over second position. So that was the first part of day one. And then the second part of day one was road course time trials, which is actually the same thing that we did on day 2. So there are 2 different sessions of road course time trials. So the first day, I actually, again, was able to set the fastest time in the class. And then on the next day, for the final session, was able to set a respectable time. I was faster than I was on the previous day, but a little bit slower than the top time in the class, which was a GT350R, driven by Brian Souders. And Brian and I have both done quite a few laps on Bowling Green's National Corvette Museum track. So I kind of expected that the two of us would be towards the top. But when all was said and done, I was able to do a 2:18.3 on this, which was about 3 seconds faster than I was when it was just the wheels and tires that are on the car now. So big improvement for Mountain Pass. I think some of it was also my driving now that I'm more familiar with the Tesla, because that was my first event with the Tesla. But I can't say enough about Mountain Pass performance. And overall, I was actually able to win the Tuner 2 class. So first time out, Time Trial Nationals, really fun event hosted by the SCCA. It's definitely a different feel than autocross, way more laid back. Kind of reminds me how autocross used to be before it got so big that events run long and you don't really have time to hang out. Everybody's exhausted. So if you get a chance to check out a time trial event hosted by the SCCA, or if you can come down to Time Trial Nationals, definitely recommend checking it out. So overall, great result for the Tesla. You've seen some video clips here of both the track sprint and the road course, but you can see the full lap on the channel. Again, overall though, Mountain Pass performance comes through, and I think I had a 4/10 margin, 4.5 margin over Brian Souders in second place in his GT350, and then I think the two of us, given our experience with the track, had quite a bit of margin over third and the rest of the positions. So I think I was top somewhere between 10 and 15 overall out of 180 drivers, again with the Tesla. So continuing to surprise a lot of people, especially outside of just the GTE like EV bubble that I've been running in for Optima. So great result for the Tesla. That was immediately followed up by a drive down to NOLA Motorsports Park for Optima Ultimate Street Car, and this was the last event for the season. It's before SEMA, before the Invitational. So I came in with a points lead in GTE. Needed a pretty reasonable finish here. The second place driver was there at the event, so definitely had to do well and have a good showing. There were a lot of people at this event. Some of the faster cars were there. Some of the cars that I haven't had the chance to compete with all in one group in terms of overall. But we had 3 drivers in GTE, and I was able to set, I believe, the second fastest or third fastest autocross time, top 3 on speed stop, and I fell back a little bit on the road course. It was within the top 20 on the road course. So overall, another good finish for the Tesla. You're seeing some videos here from that event. And that was enough to secure not only the event win in GTE, but also the class championship in GTE. So I will be headed to SEMA in a few weeks with this car, and this is the GTE National Champion of the regular series for Ultimate Street Car. And I will have an opportunity to then compete against some of the other GTE cars. There'll be a pretty big field, the biggest field we've had so far this year, with all of the invitees competing against each other for the ultimate GTE car at the Invitational. So I'm looking forward to that. In terms of modifications, we're going to go in with basically the same modifications the car has now, with the exception that I believe I should have the front camber arms finally in from Mountain Pass. I've been waiting for these for a while. I was hoping I'd have them in by NOLA, but just weren't ready yet. So these are going to give me camber adjustability in the front. Right now I'm about 1.5 degrees negative camber. This will give me close to 3.5 degrees negative camber, which is going to be awesome. I can't wait to see how this does, because ultimately this car still has steady state understeer issues. It is 4,000 pounds. It is only on 275 tires. I say only because I'm competing against cars with 305s, 315s, 335s. But that'll be a big help, and I can't wait to have those in for Las Vegas. So with that, it's a quick update of both events, but I wanted to get it out before we get too involved with heading out to SEMA. So if you're interested in following along with the adventures driving out to SEMA, checking out some of the pictures from SEMA, and also how the car's doing at SEMA in real time, feel free to subscribe to the channel. I'll be posting videos, and also I've started adding my Instagram to the description. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, that'll be a good way to see what I'm doing. I usually post pictures during the event, and since I'll be at SEMA, I'll try to post some interesting pictures of the cars that are inside the SEMA show. And with that, just looking forward to SEMA, and wish me luck in the quest to have the fastest overall GTE car at the Invitational. So we'll see you next time.